I'm Ben Gonzalez with the Texas Department of Insurance, and this is the Texas Insurance Podcast. So on each episode, we look at an insurance issue, why it's important to you, and then offer some tips that could help save you some money, maybe protect your property. And today we're going to talk about what happens after a storm or other disaster causes damage to your home. Now that usually means an insurance claim, and then shortly after trying to find the right person or company to come make some repairs. So today we're going to give you some tips on the claims process, what happens if you disagree with your insurance company, and then finally tips on how to find a good contractor. You know, after any weather disaster, we always tell you the same things. You should contact your insurance company or agent to file a claim as soon as possible. You know, if it's a big weather disaster, typically that means your neighbors are also going to be making claims. So you want to get in that line as soon as possible. And then start making a list of any damage that you find. You can take pictures or video with your phone or another camera and then start cleaning up. You know, don't throw anything away though until the insurance company tells you to do that. So if there's wet rugs or, siding that's been torn off the side of the house, just pile that up on the side until you contact the insurance company and they tell you what to do next. If there are any openings to the outside, like broken windows or holes in the roof, you do need to take steps to protect your home from any further damage. So go ahead and tape up those windows or get a tarp if you need to for the roof. And then save all your receipts from those temporary repairs because those expenses might become part of the insurance claim as well. So hopefully you can get some of that money back. And then if at all possible, you want to try to be there when the insurance company comes to inspect the damage. If you can't stay in the home or you have to leave, you have to go to work, or the home is not livable, you want to leave a note with information on where they can reach you so that you can meet them there when they come to do their inspection. A lot of companies have also started to do some virtual adjusting. So you might just do a video call and walk around with your phone and point out the damage in the home. Just be ready to answer questions about what happened and which parts of the home are damaged. And then keep a list of everybody you talk to at the insurance company. And that way you can reference them on other calls. Like, well, yesterday Doug told me this. Today I'm talking to Samantha. Just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. If you can't live in your home because of the extent of the damage, your insurance policy may help pay for food or a hotel, depending on your coverage. You can ask if you have additional living expenses. That's what it's sometimes referred to. And again, you want to save those receipts as well because they could become part of the insurance claim. So if you follow all these steps, the claims process should go pretty smoothly. But if for some reason you find yourself in a dispute with the insurance company, you do have options. After a recent storm, we spoke with TDI's Scott Helmkamp. He's one of the managers in our consumer services area about what you should do if you think your company is not handling your claim the way it should be. Typically, when we hear from consumers, they're having a problem. So they're often asking, what are my options if the claim is being denied, or I don't think they're paying enough, my insurance isn't paying enough? What do we tell people in those situations?
When somebody calls into the consumer helpline with that kind of a problem, we're first and foremost going to tell them that it's a good idea to ask the company to reconsider the decision. There's all manner of extenuating circumstances and weird situations that occurred with this storm because it was so widespread across the state. Many things may not have been under your control, like whether or not you had power to keep your pipes warm, whether or not you could safely go outside to turn the water main off to prevent damage to the pipes. So if a company is going to give you a denial decision, first things first, go back and ask for a reconsideration. Alternately, you may want to file a complaint with TDI so that we can get involved and check to see if the company's following their policy, what they're supposed to do for you. That's if you get a claim denial. Mm-hmm. Maybe the company tells you that they'll pay your claim, but you disagree on the amount of the loss, maybe the scope of the loss. That's where there's a couple of other options that you have, one of which is appraisal. That's a right that you generally have in your policy that lets you present evidence to the company about the value of your loss, receipts, estimates from professional appraisers. That kind of thing can help the company reconsider whether or not they're paying you enough money for your loss. Alternately, there's a type of licensed professional called a public insurance adjuster. That's somebody that represents you when working with the insurance company to help settle a claim. It's not somebody that works for the company, and that may be an option for consumers to consider if they're having trouble negotiating their own claims.
One thing to remember, that public insurance adjuster option does require a payment from you for their services, and that payment can be up to 10% of the entire final claim. Okay, once your claim is settled, now it's time to find a contractor to make repairs and get you back in your home. We spoke with Sarah Ramon from the Texas Roofers Association about how to go about doing that and why it is so important that you do your homework. How do we go about finding a reputable contractor? Do I just start asking my neighbors and family?
You totally can. That's a great way, actually, to find a good, reputable local business is to ask around. But you have associations such as mine. The Roofing Contractors Association of Texas has a directory listing. These roofing contractors have been vetted. They're local to Texas and their regional communities. They have insurance. You can also use resources such as the Better Business Bureau, and Angie's List is another. There are consumer organizations to help you find somebody that can do the job right and is not someone from out of state that's come in just for the storm.
So it really is kind of incumbent, though, on the consumer to kind of do a little homework on their own, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's your responsibility as the home or business owner to find somebody, and then execute that contract between the two of you and ensure that the repairs get done correctly. No one's going to do that for you. So it is important to take the time to do a little bit of homework and not just jump on, the first flyer you receive that's stuck to your door, or, hey, he did my next door neighbors. Not that that's a bad thing. But right. It's definitely encouraged to take the time and seek wisely.
I remember there's kind of an emotional content because you want to get things done. You want to get back to normal quickly, but you got to take a breath and kind of do some homework.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've really seen on social media and other places that there are literally contractors or roofers on your street before the hail is even melted. So they do prey on that emotional factor, and I'm here and you've got damage and we'll take care of this right away. In most instances, you don't have to rush to get it done. Analyze, what type of damage you have. I mean, obviously, if there's water pouring into your home, there's an urgent need. It needs to be tarped and made watertight as quickly as possible. But that doesn't mean that you have to make a rash or jump decision on that contractor or signing a contract with them. So I think it's super important to point out, too, in the state of Texas, you have 3 days to terminate something you signed, a contract. Okay. It can be handwritten, right? So if you sign something on Tuesday and then, cooler heads have prevailed and you don't really have that much damage on Friday and you've got someone else that you really want to look at and talk to, but you signed something with a guy on Tuesday, it's too late.
So you got those 3 days kind of cooling off period. One of the things that we say in a lot of TDI's materials is that we always encourage people to work with a local contractor if possible, but after a big storm, maybe there's not enough local contractors to go around. What do I do then?
Yeah, that's a good point. After Hurricane Harvey, obviously we had a shortage of contractors. In that instance, when people come in from out of state to help, that can be, a great help to the community, but it can also be a hindrance too. There's permitting processes. In the instance of Harvey, too, there's windstorm. So I'd like to give you a quick example of a lady that contacted my office after Hurricane Harvey. She hired a contractor that was actually from Colorado, and she knew that, but she needed repairs done quickly. She was undergoing cancer treatment, and she was caring for an elderly father-in-law in their home as well. So roof was repaired. She paid them their money and went about their business. And the following June, when the rains came in, she's standing in ankle-deep water in her home.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And so she contacted the roofing contractor, who's now back in Colorado, hung up on her, wouldn't return her calls. Really sad situation. She had to rent a place for them to live in. They're all retired and on Social Security. She's undergoing cancer treatment, and they're still paying a mortgage on the home they bought to bring in the father-in-law. So really sad situation. And that's what happens. The guy's gone. Then come to find out he didn't get proper windstorm certification. The roof wasn't installed properly. So they had to pay out of their pocket to fix the roof and then file a new claim on the damages inside the home.
Okay, so that's why we say work with local, because there's your recourse is kind of limited when somebody's in another state or far away from you.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's worst case scenario, but nonetheless, if you do have a warranty issue or, something else comes up, you find out it didn't get done properly. If they're not local in your area, then you're going to have a hard time getting them to come back.
Just complicates all the communication and everything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then it will cost you more out of pocket in the long run.
Okay, so another thing that we always tell our consumers is that be very cautious when somebody contacts you first. We encourage them to be the ones that are making the first contact. But again, after a storm, it's pretty common to see a lot of people knocking on doors or leaving cards. What would you tell consumers about that cautiousness they have to have?
Sure. And a lot of companies do business that way. There's a lot of business done by knocking on someone's door in that face-to-face interaction. So I don't want to bash on that practice necessarily, but it's high pressure sales tactics once you have that person in hand and they've got a clipboard and they're writing down the notes and you've got this damage and that damage and I'm going to help you. And they'll also, a lot of them, be forewarned. I'm going to give you this roof for free. Won't cost you anything out of pocket. Happens every day. That's a big red flag. Not all door-to-door salesmen will do that. But you need to first and foremost be in, if you've regionally, locally, Lubbock, they've recently, San Angelo, they've been hit by some pretty serious hail. Find out what your door-to-door sales permitting process is in your area, if there is one, right? Be educated and aware and know if you want to talk to somebody who's knocked on your door, let me see your permit for being here. If they don't have that, shut the door.
Is that typically the city or the county, kind of the permitting office for construction?
It can be either or, depending on where you live. Texas is a huge state, and we're really unique in the fact that we have multiple climates in this state. So storm
and local
season,
rules kind of apply as opposed to state rules.
Absolutely. And storm season runs from January, winter, snow, ice. Then we roll into hail season, high winds, tornadic activity. Then we roll right into hurricane season.
Here we are.
So we really don't get a break. So, it's important to know too. I mean, if you want people to put a pail in front of your door, drop your business cards here, and then do your homework. Check them against our website. Are they registered with an association? Are they getting continuing education? Are they registered with the Secretary of State? Are they registered with the Better Business Bureau? Use organizations such as mine to help you do that, help you vet, and ask for insurance too. And especially if they're not local. And just because they have, for instance, a local Lubbock address doesn't mean they're local to that area. Had a personal experience for me many years ago where we hired a roofing contractor in Cedar Park, Texas to do a roof, and we had some issues and wouldn't return my calls. I went to his place of business, which was the Super 8 motel. So do your homework, check. That cost me about $20,000 out of pocket. We had to redo our roof outside of the insurance claim, which had already paid. So, this can happen to anyone, but the scammers prey on the emotional impact of the first storm, then the high pressure sales tactic, the promises of free roofs, and then they'll focus on the elderly and sometimes the lower income areas because they can get away with the scamming a little more.
Well, you started talking about fraud and kind of that free roof business. No, that's okay. I was just going to say that leads us into our next topic is there's a new state law that clarified that contractors cannot waive deductibles. We've always maintained that that's what the case was, but the law does clarify it now. can you give us perspective from the contractor side? If somebody's offering you thousands of dollars less or off the price, doesn't that mean they're cutting corners somewhere?
Sure. In most instances, I mean, I get it. In Texas, there may be some companies that don't have the overhead expenses as some other companies, meaning they don't have employees, they don't have insurance coverage. They say we can do this for you cheaper, and I believe that. But in most instances, when they're going to waive your deductible, for instance, or give you that free roof, they're cutting corners in areas such as you don't get the product, you get a lower quality product than what you've been promised.
Shingles.
Materials, sure. Yeah, they will oftentimes not rip off the old damaged materials and roof right over the top of it. They'll overbill or supplement the insurance company for items that aren't being fixed. They will find a way to make that money back.
Here's some additional things to do to avoid contractor fraud. You want to make sure that you get more than one bid. That's going to help you decide which offers are way too high or just too low, so too good to be true, basically. And then check references and phone numbers that you're given. You can also call the Better Business Bureau to see if a company has a lot of complaints. And then also go online and see what kind of reviews they have. Google's going to be your friend in this case. And for sure, don't pay for the whole thing up front. Somebody could just take your money and run. It's okay to pay for the materials up front or make partial payments along the process, but you don't want to make that final payment until the job is completely finished. You also want to avoid contractors who offer to waive your deductible or promise that they'll give you a rebate for it once the job is done. That is illegal under Texas state law, and your insurance company may ask for proof that you paid your deductible. That's an agreement you have with the insurance company. And finally, never sign a contract that has blank spaces on it. You might not like what gets filled in later. Well, that's it for today. If you have questions about the insurance claims process, or if you need help filing a complaint against an insurance company, you can visit our website. It's tdi.texas.gov, and you can also call our helpline at 800-252-3439. And remember to subscribe to the Texas Insurance Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, so you don't miss out on this important information. All right, we'll talk to you next time.